I'm here at the Gathering 2024 for Christian Film for Men, and this is in a field near Swindon, and what's very exciting is we normally do interviews, it's over Zoom, but it's really exciting for me because I've got my dear friend Andy Godfrey with me for one very special reason, because Andy Godfrey has written his book. Hello, Andy.
Hi, Andy. Good to be here. And it's great to be at the Gathering, isn't it? What a fantastic event.
Isn't it superb?
I mean, 2,000 men singing How Great Thou Art last night was just overwhelming.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked about Sorted, we've talked about all the bits and pieces, but this is about your book because this is a long part of your journey, and you've now launched your first book.
Yeah.
So, what's the book? What's it about?
Okay, so the book is about movies, and it's about my Christian faith. So when I was very, very young, I was taken to the cinema. The first film that we ever saw was a reissue of The Wizard of Oz. If people know that film, it starts off in sepia, in brown and white, and then it transforms into glorious Technicolor when she crash lands in Oz, okay? And as an 8-9-year-old, I sat watching that, and I fell in love with cinema. And I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't have the happiest of childhoods. I was an asthmatic. There were two occasions when my parents were told, your son will be dead in the morning. I didn't have a happy time at school. So cinema was an escape. Cinema was going to Oz. Cinema was getting out of this world and into another world where nothing else mattered. And it still is. I mean, all these years later, I probably go to the cinema 3 or 4 times a week. And still, every time those lights go down, I'm getting a tingle, Andy. I'm getting a buzz. Because I'm going to Oz. I'm going back to Oz. And it might not be very nice. You know, it might be horrible, it might be awful, but it might be beautiful and wonderful and exciting and thrilling. And so I fell in love with cinema at a very early age. I also fell in love with Jesus at a very early age. I was very fortunate to be born in a Christian family. My mum and dad loved Jesus. They brought me up to love Jesus. I gave my heart to Christ at a very early age. At the age of 15, I was out preaching in churches. Believe it or not, probably rubbish. At the age of 20, I went to theological college for 3 years, and for the last 40 years I've been involved in full-time Christian work. So I've been a missionary, I've been a pastor, today I work as an evangelist, and all of that time the love of movies just increased. I have 3,000 movies in my front room. I have wall-to-wall movie posters in my house. I have 500 film soundtracks, most of them on vinyl. And this is the reason I live alone, according to my best friend. But all that time in the back of my brain, how do I combine my love of movies with my love of Jesus? And obviously, as the years have gone on, I've used quotes and illustrations from movies in sermons. But the thought came to put them in a book. And about 4 years ago, Steve Legg, who we all know, a great friend, said, look, would you come and write movies for Sorted magazine? He put his trust in me to write movies, to do his movie column in his magazine. Thankfully, he liked what he read. And I've been doing that ever since. And I also get to interview actors for the magazine. And I also get to go to press screenings and previews for the magazine, which is really good. So Steve trusted me. And I was telling him a couple of years ago about this idea for a book where we could take movies and use scenes in movies to illustrate the gospel. And he said to me in 2 words, he said, write it. And that was 2 years ago. And then just before Christmas, he challenged me again to write it. And I went into my room at home, locked myself away for 2 weeks, came up with what is a small book, but I hope a crammed packed book full of sermon illustrations, full of illustrations, full of things that movies can teach us about faith. So that's what the book is. It's called Confessions of a Christian Film Critic, because I'm confessing that I'm a Christian, but I also love movies. And I don't have a problem with that. Some people do. In the very first chapter, you'll remember, there was a rock and roll song that a guy called Larry Norman wrote, called Why Should the Devil Have All the Good Music, okay? And in that song, he says, people questioned him for being a Christian but being in a rock and roll band, right? People have questioned me over the years. You're a Christian, but you like going to the movies. The two don't gel, it's secular, it's worldly, you know? No, it isn't. I'm just having fun, I'm just enjoying life to the full. You know, I can come out, I can go and sit and watch a movie, it can wash over me, or it can affect me. But it doesn't change my core belief, it doesn't change my lifestyle, it doesn't change what I think about Jesus Christ.
So you have this idea, you locked yourself away, you wrote this book. Steve Legg, the great encourager, the greatest I've ever known, I think, possibly, and he got you to write this book. So what was the process of writing like for you? I know you've written for Sorted and you do other bits and pieces. If you've been leading a church, you'll write sermons. But how did you approach actually writing a book?
So the process was, and remember, I've been thinking about this for 40 years. The idea was to write about different genres of movies rather than specific movies. So, for example, in the book there's a chapter on Bond movies, there's a chapter on Christmas movies, there's a chapter on Disney movies, there's a chapter on sci-fi and horror movies. So my thinking was, let's just do this on different genres. I like to think I know a little bit about movie history. Let's cite as many films as we can. That was the first thing. So it was then a question of working out which genres I wanted to cover. And I wanted to cover horror, science fiction, Disney, Bond, Alfred Hitchcock, Christmas. I wanted to do a chapter on the history of the Bible on film. And then the second thing was, who is the book aimed at? Who is this book going to be aimed at? And I wanted it to be a book that non-Christians could read gladly and happily. I have many, many, many film fans, friends. I run a Facebook page. It's called the Mark Kermode Appreciation Society. People will know Mark Kermode, the film critic. I'm one of very few Christians among 6,000 people on that group. I wanted my friends on that group to be able to pick up this book, read it and understand every word, even though I'm writing about the gospel. That was the second objective. The third objective was to say, how can we encourage Christians to talk to their friends who maybe have gone to a movie and about Jesus? How can we use movies as an opening? So there were three objectives. One, to cover as many different genres as we could, but to write a book that was accessible to people who have no faith, but to write a book that was going to be useful to people who have faith. So those were the three goals. In the back of the book, you'll find a section where we've listed 5 movies that you could show in your church. You could show a men's group, you could show a ladies group, and then there are discussion starters, so you can get people together after the film and discuss the film using these questions, and they will lead you to talk about Jesus. One of the other objectives, and this was something that Steve and I talked about, was I've written so many film reviews now for Sorted. One of the objectives was, let's collect some of them together in a book. So my idea was, in between each chapter we'll have intermissions, just like you get in a movie. In a long movie, we don't get them so much these days, do we?
I miss them.
Used to have I miss them. You should have something. I think the last one was Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, that had an intermission. So the intermissions are reviews. But again, I want people to read those reviews and think, what is this film saying? What is the message of this film? You know, what do I take from this film? So that's the objective as well. So those were the three objectives. Write about as many movies as possible, write a book non-Christians could understand and find accessible, write a book that will help Christians. Because a lot of Christians I know don't go to the movies, that's fine, but their friends do. Their friends do. How are you going to talk to your friends? Oh, you saw such and such a film? Yeah, I know about that. So those are the three objectives, Andy, and I locked myself away, I locked myself in a room for 2 weeks, worked it out. Then there's been another 8 months. I mean, this has only come out a week ago.
It's not a quick process, is it?
It's not a quick process. It's a very slow process. And I'd never written I'm going to be 62 in a few weeks' time. This is my first ever attempt at writing a book. Steve said, get hold of my editor, the girl who edits his books, a lady called Joy Tibbs, who is a genius. The first thing Joy said to me was, we cannot quote from movies because of copyright. She said, this manuscript as it stands is going to cost you thousands of pounds. I don't have £100, I have thousands. So Joy was a genius. So I'll give you an example. I wanted to quote the Terminator, you know, I'll be back.
Yeah.
Joy said, you can't do that. So what she did was, she wrote a sentence that reads, as Arnie observed, he would return. So see how she twists.
There's always a way.
There's always a way. Joy had to do that literally dozens of times through the book. Dozens. She's an absolute genius, worth every penny. And the book would not be here without her. I then said to Steve, you've got to write the foreword. He read it and described me as a love child between Mark Kermode and Barry Norman, armed with a big black Bible.
Barry Norman,
there you go, goes back a bit in time, doesn't it? He was a leading film critic, for those who don't know. And because I know Mark Kermode, who is the country's leading film critic, now Mark is an interesting guy. Mark believes in God. Mark believes in heaven, but he doesn't believe in hell and he doesn't believe in judgment. So everybody's going to heaven, right? But I thought, if we had his name endorsing the book, people who aren't Christians but love movies may well take a second look at it. Because if Mark Kermode's saying this is a good book, so I sent him a copy. It was a real punch the air moment about 5 weeks ago now, where we got a message back from his agent saying Mark's read it, he enjoyed it, here's a quote you can use on the cover, and it's on the front cover. That was a punch the air moment, genuinely. And that was a thank the Lord moment. Thank you, Lord, because this means that part of our target audience, non-Christians, people who have no faith, are going to take a second look at this. They may not buy it, but they're going to say, oh, Mark Kermode likes this book. We sent it to a number of people, including your son Nathan, who I have to say, incredible proofreader.
He's good.
Incredible proof. He's good.
He's done my books. He's great.
He's brilliant. Hang on to him. We sent it to a number of people I know in ministry who gave us some lovely endorsements. But I also gave it to a couple of people that I know who aren't Christians. One of them being a friend of mine called Bob Mann. Now Bob reviews movies for BBC Radio Solent and describes himself as a heathen.
Okay.
Bob read the book. He rang me up, he said, that was brilliant, absolutely loved it. Even a heathen like me, I love this book. And so we put that on the back cover, that quote. A heathen said that a book called Faith on Films on, Faith on Film, I forgot the title, has come back and said,
do you want to read the book?
Yeah, please do, let's read it. Has come back and said, I really enjoyed it. So that was thrilling. That's objective one there. A non-Christian has read the book and enjoyed it and understood it. We got endorsements from people in full-time ministry, including Sue Rinaldi, who is a worship leader. We got endorsements from other evangelists. We got endorsements from various other people. Objective number 2 met, because they all said Christians are going to like this book and can use it. Yeah. Objective number 2 met. So slowly and surely, having written this book, which covers lots of different movies, I mean, loads of different movies are mentioned, and I'd written the book, and Joy, our editor, said, you've got to go back and do it again, Andy. And I said, why? She said, you've got to put the date after each film was released. All of them? Yeah. Took me a day, just a better part of a day, to go through the book and put the date 1982, whatever it was, after each film. But we got there.
It's a process, isn't it? I was remembering a church somewhere in London, I can't remember, it's a while ago now, when the first Matrix film came out.
Right.
There's a pivotal moment in the film, if you've not seen it, there's a pill, and one of the main characters has to decide which one of these two coloured pills he's going to take. Yeah. One of them is going to open his eyes to this other world, one of them he'll go back to sleep and not know what's gone on. And this church did services near this cinema in London, and as they came out they were asked, which pill would you like as part of this talk? And it struck me the power of how we can use stuff, maybe it's Christian, maybe it's not, but you know what? Nothing is wasted, and actually, with the creating of the Holy Spirit, all of a sudden, whatever we do, we can do something absolutely outstanding with it.
You can. I mean, I remember when E.T. came out, I lost track of the number of talks, children's talks in churches, I heard about E.T. Because think about E.T. He came from heaven, he dies, he rises again, he tells us to be good, and he goes back to heaven. Remind you of anybody?
Perhaps, yes.
So E.T. was for many months when it came out. Church after church, children's speaker, especially after speaker, were using E.T. to illustrate Jesus. Jesus died, rose again, told us to love him, went back to heaven, but the difference is he's coming back again. E.T. never came back.
No, E.T. left us.
E.T. left us. Jesus is coming back again one day. I believe that with all my heart. So I mentioned that in the book. You know, and again, you think about the world of sci-fi. You know, in the
we
world
do have a shared passion for Star Trek, don't we?
we do have a shared passion for Star Trek.
We've been to a Star Trek convention, not together, separately at different times. I have been to a Star Trek convention.
And for me, it's the original series. I've met William Shatner. Unbelievable.
What a guy.
Well, he was a bit rude, but long story. But you know, in the world of Star Trek, as you know, everybody lives in peace, harmony, and unity. You know, back in the 60s, to have a black woman in a command position on the bridge, working with a Russian, people just thought this was horrific, but it worked. So what does Jesus do for us? Jesus brings us together. He's brought you and me together. He's brought me and Steve, but he brings us all together. We got 2,000 men in a field here in Swindon right now. Jesus has brought us together, and this is a foretaste of what heaven's going to be like. So using Star Trek as a starting off point for talking about heaven seemed quite natural. The Bond movies. I mean, I'm never going to be James Bond. You know,
I don't know. I can see he's the next Daniel Craig.
Well, you know,
no,
you're
bit of an
joking.
exercise regime.
You're joking.
Get some suntan.
You know, I don't know if you remember, there was a song Scouting for Girls did called "I Wish I Was James Bond," and we've cited that again. We couldn't quote it, but we cited that in the book. So Bond lives this lifestyle of gadgets and girls and beating up the bad guys and money's no object and travelling the world. I'm never going to be James Bond. That's never going to be my lifestyle. Can I still, as an ordinary human being, have an exciting life? Can I still, as an ordinary human being, have a fulfilling life? Yes, I can. Because Jesus said, I've come to give you life and life in all its fullness. So for me, the lesson of the Bond movies is I may never be James Bond, but I can be what God wants me to be, and that's even more exciting and that's even more thrilling. Yeah. You know, so that's what the Bond chapter's about. So we could go on, but I mean, there's no. I did a chapter on Christmas movies.
Die Hard.
Die Hard came in at number 2.
Oh,
behind Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yes, fine. I can live with that.
I mean, you know, I love the Muppet Christmas Carol. There's a great moment when Michael Caine is walking through the market and they're singing a song about how terrible he is, and there's this great line that says even the vegetables don't like him. You know, makes me laugh every year. Die Hard is in there, but you know, again, go on to talk about the fact that a few years ago the BBC produced a series called The Nativity. Do you know the guy who wrote that was an atheist? The guy they commissioned to write The Nativity, in the course of researching it, he became a believer, because he said either this nativity story is true or it's something somebody's made up and it's a load of rubbish, and he became a believer. So we tell that story in the book. I mean, it's a small little book, but it's crammed full of stuff.
It doesn't have to be huge to be
exactly good. So that's an exciting thing. You know, somebody who's an atheist is commissioned to write The Nativity, becomes a believer. Wow, fabulous. You know, it's brilliant. I'm just trying to think, there are other genres as well. The one that's probably going to cause me the most difficulty with a lot of people is the one on horror movies. But this came out of a conversation again with Mark Kermode. Mark Kermode said to me one day about 2 years ago, why do Christians have problems with horror movies? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, don't horror movies teach us that God is stronger than the devil? In most horror movies, just about all of them, God defeats the devil. And his favourite movie is The Exorcist, and I went back and I looked at The Exorcist. What the message of The Exorcist, if you follow it through to the end, is this: love and self-sacrifice conquers all. And do you know that the communists in Eastern Europe banned that film for being too evangelistic? Because they didn't want people to get the message that there is a God and that there is a devil and that Jesus Christ conquers the devil, which is the message in the film. Yeah. Based on a true story, which is the first thing you see when you watch a film. So I get this thing about some people say, oh, you shouldn't be watching these kinds of films. I quite enjoy them, if I'm honest. I'm going to be Confessions of a Christian Film Critic. I quite enjoy them because I watch them secure in the knowledge that the devil's is a defeated foe. And there's a great moment in the film called The Devil's Advocate, where Al Pacino is playing the devil. He's got a son called Keanu Reeves, and he's trying to persuade his son to join him, right? The son says to the father, to the devil, "Haven't you read the book, Dad? We lose." Talking about the Bible. "Haven't you read the Bible, Dad? We lose." And when I saw that, I punched the air. And this film is doing my job for me. It's telling people that the devil loses. It's telling people what the Bible says. And I can use that as a jumping off point for my friends who go to watch horror movies, who've seen that film. And I say, "Oh yeah, you remember that line? The devil loses." You know, and I believe this is real. And look around you at what's happening in the world. And there is evil, and there is good, and there is God, and there is bad. You know? We've done a chapter on Westerns. That was quite a late edition.
I like a Western.
I like a
John Wayne.
Well,
it works for me.
I'm not into those. It's more the spaghetti stuff for me. What happens in every Western? Every single Western you've ever seen, there is a chapel somewhere.
Always.
There is a chaplain. There is somebody quoting the good book.
Yeah.
Every single Western. What do the Psalms say? The Psalms say, "If I go to the east or the west, you are there." Yeah. Westerns are reminding us that you cannot escape the presence of God. We did a chapter on war movies. Now my favourite war movie, and again people would disagree, which is fine, is Kelly's Heroes, which is about a bunch of American soldiers discovering that behind enemy lines there's a bank full of gold. And they break through enemy lines with the sole purpose not of defeating the enemy, but of getting to the gold. In so doing, they actually create an opening for the American troops to go through. It's a really funny film. It's a really good film. It was a big success. Kelly's Heroes says, what are your values? What are your values? Do you put country above money? Where do your values lie? The gospel asks us the question, where do our values lie? So all of these things came out. There's scope for more. We didn't do a chapter on rom-coms because frankly, you know, boring. We didn't do a chapter. There are other genres that we can do chapters on. I have got in mind a sequel. And you'll remember that line from Jaws, you're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
The sequel's going to be called Because We Needed a Bigger Book.
Where can people find your book, Andy?
Okay, it's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. It looks like that. Wonderful, talented young lady, book designer called Esther, who's actually a member of my church. She designed the cover. It's on Amazon. It's available on Kindle. It's $9.99. There is a hardback edition if you feel like treating your friends. But yeah, and also in the back, just to say, Andy, if I may, you'll find my email address, so people can email me and tell me that the book's a load of rubbish, and they fundamentally disagree with me if they want to.
Brilliant.
Also, one of the things that we're doing, partly through Sorted, we are offering people the chance for me to visit their church and do an evening on movies.
Brilliant.
So we'll show clips from movies. We will have a quiz. We'll have a lot of fun. We'll talk about the history of movies and favourite movies, and then we'll bring the gospel in. So if you want me to come to you, and I'm quite happy to travel all over the country for a fee, but if you want me to come to your church, get in touch. We can come, we can do an evening, an evangelistic evening, where we're going to do it in Milton Keynes in a few weeks' time. We're inviting loads of people to come. Just come and enjoy an evening of talking about movies. At the end of the evening, there will be a challenge based on one of the films that we've talked about.
Can I borrow your book for one moment?
Please do.
Yeah, I'll show you in a minute.
Yep.
Yeah, Faith on Film, Confessions of a Christian Film Critic, available on Amazon. If you haven't got it, go and get it. Ebook, hardback, paperback, what's your excuse? Go off to Amazon. Andy, thank you.
Thank you, Andy, so
my
much.
dear friend, and it's great to see you do this because this is brilliant.
Well, that's kind of you. Thank you so much.
And live from the Gathering in a field near Swindon 2024. Andy, thank you.
My pleasure.
The Pure newsletter comes out once a month and is designed to build up, entertain and encourage you. Sign up for our newsletter at pure247radio.org.